Good morning. Good morning to all of you here present in the room and to all of you listening in on live stream in the present moment or in some future moment. I just want to say how grateful I am to be here. My name is Sarah Gorham, by the way. I'm a licensed prayer practitioner here at Light in the Mountains, and it is a joy to be gathering with everyone here. And I am particularly grateful this morning for our music and for the fact that RL has recently been able to play music with others, which I think has to be such a treat for him.
True.
Yeah, and I've been thinking a lot about harmonies, and here are my thoughts on that. The universe has been whispering truth to me lately, whispering it in symphony, talking to me in harmonies, in chords and resonance, in the poetry of song and the song within poetry. And the truth that has been expressing there is what Ernest Holmes called first principle, the most fundamental truth that there isn't God and something else, that there is only a unity of being, and we are of it and in it and could never be outside of it. It has been speaking of the truth of our inextricable interwovenness. It has been reminding me that when we allow ourselves to know ourselves and the world around us in community, we are so much more than our disparate parts. The same way that harmonious notes played together make a rich and evocative chord, and when those chords are played together, they can create a song and symphony to soar our hearts. This week, the universe has conspired to weave a melody of co-resonance for me with these following song lines, each found in rapid succession to one another, each expressed in its own way, each supporting and amplifying the others. First, from a book called The Kingdom, a spiritual text by Paul Selig, I found this. The act of being, in agreement to the tone of the divine, is the vibratory accord of the divine that is instilled in all things because it cannot not be there. The tree knows what it is. It knows identity without conjuring. It is not confused about its birth. Neither is the puppy, neither is the sloth, neither is the toad. They know who they are. They are in complete expression, and they understand themselves in the immediacy of the moment, which is the only place that God may be known. Shortly after reading that, this excerpt from a book on deep ecology called The Songs of Trees arrived in my inbox. Because life is network, there is no nature or environment separate and apart from humans. We are part of the community of life, composed of relationships with others, so that the human nature duality that lives near the heart of many philosophies is, from a biological perspective, illusory. We cannot step outside life's songs. This music made us. It is our nature. Then a fiction book landed in my lap, a book called The Midnight Library, a wild ride of a tale built around quantum mechanics and the multiverse of parallel lives. It echoed the above concepts with its base assumption of the infinity of the universe and our limitless expression as part of that infinity. And throughout that book, this line repeated like a chorus. It's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. Everywhere I look in my world, I see and hear these harmonies, reinforcing what I intrinsically know and feel, that we are all of one unity, not in theory, but in actuality. I believe that the realization of that fundamental truth is what humanity is being schooled in right now. It's true that, like many of us individually do and have done in our lives, myself included, we as a collective have apparently chosen to learn this lesson the hard and messy way. But messy or not, the trajectory of evolution moves only forward, and given that, I believe we will learn and are learning. We will learn to discard fear in favor of love, turn away from separation, and embrace the divine within ourselves, each other, and all that is. We will relearn that song that was written long before time began, and when we do, we will sing a new world into being. And I'd like us to, I kind of did this out of order, but I'd like us to just take this moment, maybe to take that thought of unity within and know ourselves deeply within this moment and deeply interwoven. And to know that there is a hum at the center of our being, and that as we allow that hum to extend outward, it encounters and is woven in harmony with the hum of all of life. That as we encounter each other and allow ourselves to weave together, we are known within the wholeness of the divine. And so from that place, I give thanks for this precious present moment, for all who are gathered here to celebrate this morning, and for all of life everywhere. We know we are blessed. We are in gratitude for this knowing. And together we say, and so it is. Special music by the Special RL. Oh, sorry, we do read our affirmation, which I have left on my seat. Thank you. I was so unprepared. I didn't even take my coat off yet, so here. I guess I'm having a flustered morning. It's a really short and simple affirmation this time. It's on your little insert that should be on your seat. It says, I forgive, I am forgiven, I am as peace. Now,
Doc. Okay. Okay, and I'm doing this on camera. Okay. There we go. Oh, okay. Good morning, everybody, and now I'm over here. So, we learn through stories, don't we? Stories that are true, stories we embellish, and sometimes we just make up. There's a story that I know I told several years ago, and it popped in my consciousness this week, and I realized that there was a lot more to learn from that story. So I thought I should fill in some of the blanks. It's probably a new story to many of you. Some of you may remember it. So have you ever traveled with a large group of people, like a European type of trip, over several days or weeks? Sometimes it might be, quote unquote, the dreaded tour, you don't know anybody. And it might be there's a connection and a reason why you all chose to travel together. And I've done it a couple times, and actually probably about 3 or 4 times. And if you recall, it's whenever you travel with a group, it turns into a traveling reality show. Have you noticed that? That suddenly do you ever watch these reality shows on TV occasionally? They're so compelling, it's like I'm turning channels, and you don't do that anymore, do you? But anyways, you're turning channels and you get it, and it's like, oh, what is it? This terrible show on here? And you're watching, you know, and there's certain roles. There's like the evil one and the do-gooder, and there's romances that happen, and then there's big breakups that happen, so to speak. And it is a reality TV show when we travel together. So there's one significant traveling that I did several years ago that I've learned a lot more from this week, actually. So this took place when I was in college, 1988, and I was a late bloomer into college, meaning that I started college 10 years later. So it's funny as I think now when I started college in my late 20s, I was thought of as the old guy. Oh, you're the old guy. And I guess when you're in classes with the 18-year-olds, you are the old guy. But I was in the music department, and I was in a choir in our music department, and the choir was just for people who were music majors and studying voice. So it was a pretty high degree of musicianship. We all knew how to read music even, which doesn't happen in choirs. And there was a decision that we would do a 3-week tour of what was then the Soviet Union. And there would be about 50 of us. Just imagine, that's a lot of people to travel. And I would say 40 of us were about 20 and 21 years old. Mostly living at home, never have traveled out of the country. And then, and I was at that point the old guy of 31, and there was a string quartet. And we were going to do 3 weeks. And like I said, even as we are getting on the plane to in Los Angeles to go across, the roles were already pretty much cemented. We had the divas, we had the ones that were just going to show whatever they were going to, budding romances already, and just this idea of, I don't know, entitled Americans, which didn't work well in the Soviet Union. I just want to give you as kind of a precursor here. And just to show you how I think unprepared we were as Americans and as entitled Americans. So we landed in Helsinki, and then we were to take a train to what was in Leningrad, St. Petersburg. And so we get on this lovely, beautiful train, and we stop on the border into the Soviet Union and get on a not-so-lovely train. And that's the first shock of like, what is this? And so we had to get on the not-so-lovely train and get into our little cars and have our little rooms, and it was going to be an overnight trip, which made it even that much more interesting, and have our luggage in there. And we're all sitting there just, waiting for the train to start. What's taking so long? And this looked like something straight out of a movie. This Soviet soldier came into our little compartment with the big rimmed hat, and the hammer and sickle on it in red, and he didn't speak English except for these 2 lines. "Good day, get out." Huh? "Good day, get out." He wanted us to leave because they were going to come in and thoroughly search all of our baggage. Again, kind of a thing here of like, ooh, what's going on here? But we had no idea what we were prepared for in a lot of sense. And at this point, we're a group of 50 people, a lot of young kids, and people getting whiny, and, oh, what do you mean? And our first concert was in Leningrad. And we really weren't prepared with what was going to happen. So first of all, if you've ever sung in a choir or been to a choir concert, you almost have to beg, borrow, or steal to get an audience. Isn't that right, Ariel? It's not an appreciated art form, I think. So from the outside, we filed into this amazing concert venue in Leningrad. It was a 19th century concert hall that sat 2,000 people, and it was standing room only. And as we came in, people stood up and were applauding, and like even in unison, like, here they are, here they are, here they are. I thought, is there someone else here? I mean, like I said, I had to promise to take my family out to dinner after a concert in college just to get them to drive up and go. And it was just this amazing experience and we started to perform, and the same thing after any song that was done, they would just clamor and stand up and applaud and yell, and I mean, in a good way, and it was just amazing. And as we even filed out afterwards, it was like we were rock stars at backstage, and people were handing us things and little gifts and wanted to just touch us and be with us. And it was amazing. And every venue we went to was like that. And even something made it a little bit more special and a keepsake is that we gave a concert on Moscow radio. And they recorded it, and it played throughout the Soviet Union. And I actually have a CD of that just as a keepsake. And especially after that first concert, we got on our Soviet bus to a place for dinner, and we were like, what just happened here? No one wants to hear a chorus sing, what just happened here? But in 1988, it was an interesting time in history for the world as well as for what was in the Soviet Union. There was this great feeling of change, and that something could happen for the good. And the people that we met there they just felt like finally something good is going to happen. And it was almost like wanting to touch the hem of the garment with us. It's just, we represented to them everything they wanted to be at that moment. And they just wanted to be in our presence because we were Americans, and to them represented freedom. And again, throughout the whole tour, it was the same thing. And that reaction changed us. that, yes, we still were this group of kind of whiny kids and bitter adults and, where's my luggage and where are they making me stay in this weird hotel in the Soviet Union? But we started to come to understand that we suddenly took on an identity as a group that was unexpected. That we were really, I guess you could say, emissaries of the arts and for goodwill from our country. And again, even just walking down the street, I guess we must have like a neon thing, American, American, American. And just old ladies would just come and hold my hand and just didn't speak English, just say, peace, peace, peace. I mean, it was just, I can't even tell you how it transformed us as a group. And again, we were at moments still a traveling reality show, and the divas were still divas, and the romances were still happening, and the drama was still happening there, but we all got that it was something deeper that was happening. And I think the reason why I thought of that this week is that we have that opportunity now. Something deeper is happening if we allow it to be. We can be a traveling reality show in our bad behavior, or we can do something else. This month's theme with Center Spiritual Living that we are all sharing at Centers is Go Further Together. And a course saying that has been published in the materials that we are sharing is pretty amazing. It's taken from what we were told in African proverb that says, if you want to go faster, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. And think of that. If you want to go faster, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. And that is so true on so many different levels. And sometimes we do, in a sense, need to go alone. I mean, we're on our own paths, and we do have to do certain things, and we are responsible for our own moving forward, but there is something magic that happens when you open your heart and minds to do it together, just like the trip that I was reminiscing with this week, and especially as a spiritual community. Sometimes it can be so easy in the nonprofit realm when tasks that need to be done, just say, I'm just going to do it and get it done. It'll just be faster. And sometimes that'll happen with me. I've got a task. I don't want to call whomever. It'll take me twice as long to tell them how to do it than just to do it. But when you invite people into the process, there's a little bit of magic that happens. Things come up, a way of doing things that you wouldn't have gotten doing it just on your own. And in fact, when we do things on our own, sometimes we can be so task-oriented, let's just get step 1, step 2, step 3, and get it done. Whereas there is an energy that comes together as we widen the input of what's happening. And we have that opportunity today. It is so tempting today to just wanting to go it alone. It's so frustrating. We're all tired of the reality show, aren't we? We're all tired of the show, of the characters. And in fact, what is one show? I can't remember what it was. We would all just like to vote some people off the island, wouldn't you? I don't know, which one is that from? It must be an island show. But anyways, at a certain point, everyone gets together, and who is the one we hate the most, and we're going to vote them off the island and send them home. And out of frustration, we want to do the same. And I'm sure you on our trip to the Soviet Union, there were many moments that we would have gladly voted people off the island. But we kind of rose back up to the occasion. So I believe that this thing that we call spirit or the divine has an amazing sense of humor. We rarely get what we want in the way to learn lessons. In fact, don't we have this high idea of how I will rise up to learn this great lesson that comes my way? But spirit in its humor sends us everyone that we would like to vote off the island as a way of doing it. Therein is where the work is done. So gosh, so many issues today, and we like, bless you, and we like to think that in spiritual community that we are above this sort of thing, that we just love each other so much that we would never think of voting each other off the island. I know I'm not supposed to say this, but there's been a few people I would have liked to have voted off the island this last year and a half. So what? It's human. So I talk to a lot of my colleagues throughout the work that I do, and I visit with them all the time through Zoom and on phone calls and looking at what's going on in our center compared to other centers. And there is an interesting statistic that has formed. And this seems to be in just center-wide in all of our centers, at least the ministers I talk to, and looking at how we are having to come to terms with this thing that we call COVID, or should we say, the lessons we need to learn that just happens to be showing up as COVID. So we are in 3 groups in our little group in the Centers of Spiritual Living. We have a third that thinks we're doing too much, things like masks and vaccines and all that. We have a third that thinks we're not doing nearly enough. And we have a third that think we've got it just right. And so we have this interesting dynamic of a group traveling together, really convinced that we're right individually, and not sure how we are traveling with the other 2 groups. So there's our lessons to learn from. The stage has been set. So the question is, if you don't like how the stage has been set, how would you like to reset it? How would you like to change the scenery, their costumes, or actually change the story that's being told? See, when we're in something, we can be so entrenched in the stories that we don't realize is that we can change the script at any time. That rather than going it alone, we can go further together. So we were talking about this in broad terms. I'm teaching a class on Monday night, and it's the first in-person class I've taught in almost 2 years, and it's so amazing. Zoom is a miracle, and it has saved us on many levels, but there's nothing like having the people in the room, even if we are seated 8 feet apart. It still works. So the class is called Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. The good news is that you can change the course of your life through shifting your beliefs and what you think is possible. The bad news is that you can only change your own beliefs and you can't change anyone else. I think if I promised a class that I could help you change other people, I think I would have to rent the auditorium at the, in Fox Acres over there. Oh my God, I can finally change my family. I don't care how much the class costs. God, if I could figure it out, it'd be a real moneymaker. I could probably pay off my mortgage, and I just made my first payment. But so with this, everyone has a little project to work on, like a little area to do some specific different work with that they're going to share at the end of the class. And it's a 5-week class. And at the core of this, as we're beginning, we are working with affirmations, but maybe not in a way you would think. So often people think that if you say an affirmation, that it's almost like an incantation. The more you say it, it's like the witch's brew. It will suddenly happen in my life. It's not how it works. It is an invitation to change what you believe. Often an affirmation will be the opposite of a negative belief that you have. And it's opening the door to kind of clean out the old and bring in the new. But it's not just the repeating it is a process where you change your energy field to vibrate at a different level. That old thinking no longer matches that higher vibration. That's what it's all about. And so we're going kind of person to person and going over the affirmation work with and brainstorming as a group if it doesn't feel right. And again, talking about the world today, because we all live in the world today. And working with this one couple of course, frustrations and what would it take to have transformation in the world. That's what they're working on, just a little project. What would it take to have transformation in the world? And they were working with the idea of forgiveness, and with brainstorming, we came up with, I think, one of the most powerful affirmations I've ever had. And you know it already. You said it already. I forgive, I am forgiven, I am at peace. But I want to delve in this a little bit more, because especially in today, these things are a lot more deeper than you may think. And as I wrote on my blog this week, sometimes when we even say the word forgiveness, it can bring us into this dark place of looking at where our grievances are. And oh my gosh, what am I going to do? The whole point of to say, I forgive, I am forgiven, I am at peace, is to raise our vibration, not to lower it. And to think about it in a completely different way. It's not about condoning bad behavior or wallowing in grievance. It is about rising above what we call our struggle. It is just rising above. It is rising above our pain. So it's almost like saying, I am filing for divorce for my inner pain and struggle. I mean, does that sound like something you might be interested in? That whatever it is that you're carrying. And again, it doesn't mean that you can condone bad behavior. It might even mean that you're in litigation with someone that happened with you. But it's to know that you can have freedom at the same time. So let's pick this apart a little bit. I forgive, I am forgiven, I am at peace. So what does it mean to say, I forgive? It means that you are releasing attachment to the struggle portion of whatever grievances you have had in the past. Let me just think about that. We're still dealing with it in the physical world, but you are giving up that woundedness that we take on when we go into grievance. That thing when you think of something that you're carrying around and you instantly feel that like gut punch. It's willing to give up, as the Buddhists call suffering, that you may carry from past events. Again, in the real world, you may be needing to deal with it, because we live in the real physical world. There's steps that we have to take, but to do it without the pain. So I came across a really great way to define struggle, at least as Buddhists put it. Struggle is what we feel when the life that we wanted is not the life that showed up. I mean, think about that. Whenever we've been in any sort of internal pain, life has not showed up as we had hoped. And there's two aspects of that. What we had hoped for may have not come our way. Maybe we wanted certain things out of our lives. And the other side of that coin is that some things came our way that have just horrified us, and we just can't even understand why they came our way. So there is our pain. Are you willing to file for divorce for your struggle? You would think that the obvious answer is yes, but it's part of our energy field, our woundedness, and it takes a lot of work to extract it and to rise above. So let's go to the second part, I am forgiven. We have all done things that are unkind. We have all, at some point in our lives, hurt another person, either intentionally or unintentionally. And if we are people trying to grow in consciousness, we realize that on some level we need to make amends. Sometimes when you make amends, it is received, and it is received well, and other times it is not. Has anyone said to you, for what you did, there's no forgiveness that I could ever give for you? We've all had similar experiences. And the deeper root, our pain in that, is that it speaks and just latches right into our feeling of self-worth. So to honestly make amends, whether it's received or not, is basically also declaring freedom and saying, and I reclaim my self-worth. So let's relook at this affirmation. I release my attachment to struggle. I reclaim my self-worth, and I am at peace. I release my attachment to struggle. I reclaim my self-worth, and I am at peace. Imagine how your life might change if you made that your spiritual practice. Imagine in this world today, as we are seemingly having such trouble getting along with everyone, if that was your affirmation. How it might change not only you, how you show up in the world, and even the world as you show up in that elevated state of consciousness. And it's very simple, but as they say, not always easy. And I gave an outline in my blog this week of how one begins. Because we can feel at such a loss. It's like, I want to do this, but yet I feel that this so strongly in me. It just within my energy feel like just don't know how to just be done with it. Like I said, it's very simple, maybe not easy. So you start every day in a spiritual practice where you just bring on the feeling of what would it feel like if it were so. So you put the reality of your life, the facts of your life aside a little bit, and you say, what would it feel like, or now what does it feel like right now for me to affirm and know that it's done, that I've let go, I've forgiven myself, and that I'm at peace. Now, at first you'll fight yourself. But no, don't you know this stuff is happening? No, this person just called me and I have a new grievance that's fresh off the press here. What am I supposed to do? Maybe not answer the phone for 5 days before I go into this meditation because you don't want any more new things coming in? It doesn't matter. At first it's just pretend. But here's what happens after a while. You start getting used to that new way of being, even starting just a little bit. That you actually start to believe that it's possible. That when you are in that state and you bring to mind someone that you may have a grievance with, that you have a less emotional charge with that person and whatever incident that you have experienced with them. And eventually, you can bring them or situations into your thoughts and feel at peace. Again, doesn't mean that you don't deal with things in the physical world. Again, it doesn't mean you condone bad behavior. It means that you look at it and experience it at a different consciousness or a higher consciousness from that in which you helped create it. And Spirit and the universe keeps, I think now, saying, here you go. Here's all sorts of possible grievances for you to play with. And if that one's not getting you, how about this? Oh, did that not get you going? Here's a really good one. Turn on the news. Oh, here's something. There's an election. That'll get you going. And in that, to say that not that you're going to ignore what's going on, but I am charged with creating a different consciousness by which to experience it. So as we close today, we're just going to do like a minute to get you going. So let's just close our eyes for a moment. So let us imagine right now that anything that we are carrying or have carried in the past has been resolved, that it has been let go, and that we feel lighter than air. Let's not even think about what you may be carrying. We've thought about the stories more than enough. Let's just imagine ourselves lighter than air. We have released our need to struggle and suffer. I have forgiven myself. I know I have great worth. I know that my mission here in life is to let Spirit move through and as me in all that I do. I do that now. I release myself from suffering. And I am at peace. And that is the truth of who I am. And so it is.